Alright folks, how are you doing? We're into the last day of January of 2019, and I'm going to try to show you the different job that the two rakes that I have a pine needle rake and that landscape rake. And this area up here from the storm had tons of pine needles everywhere, and they're still here. They're probably not noticeable in this, but I wanted the sun to my back so as not to put glare in your face. But we're going to walk on back, and I did some pine needle raking already, and we'll see that further down here. But the pine needle rake, when you rake on this graveled road, it just lightly scrapes the gravel road and doesn't create a lot of this. I don't know if you can see that or not with all the rock thrown up. That was from when I used the landscape rake. It pulls it up. Plus I already had areas semi-washed out. The more that you run down the graveled road, it'll start loosening up the rock underneath. But this area is thick. I mean, I don't know if you can see it or tell, but this is thick with pine needles. I mean, several inches thick. And I had already, this happens every year to 2 years. I have to, along the lane that I have, coming in from the main road to here, or the whole way back to the kennel, I literally prune any type of, or cut out any kind of tree, bush, anything that's hanging out on the road, so that springtime everything's growing and you want to start cutting the lawn and so forth with the other massey, and before it's all over, I'm whacked in the face continuously with branches hanging out. So if you'll notice, there's really not much hanging out on the sides. I know that's not really a good shot, but maybe that'll, I mean, it's not much hanging out at all that's gonna whack me. Pull that back in. And all of this area on each side of the gravel road has not been cleared of pine needles yet. So we'll get on up here, walk a little faster. It's gonna be a little of a bumpy video here. Yeah, and I cleared out a lot of this Hurricane Florence. I know it was in September. It just literally, tons of these trees that they had them all leaning over, as you can see here, all throughout. And hey, it's a wooded area, I don't mind. But when it gets on the road, then that's where I have to do a little clearing. I don't venture back in the woods as much either, because of the fact that I have a lot of half trees, leaning trees, partial trees. Real easy that a heavy wind would take it out. Now if you'll notice, the gravel is kind of reddish brown, and only where my wheels, where they meet the road, is a little different color. But right up here is where I finished yesterday. Didn't take long, using the pine needle rake and making mounds of pine needles. So I'll get to these, stack them up, use the grapple, and literally pick them up, throw them in the woods. Okay, and right about this point, from this point on, as you can see, the road is a different color. And even on each side of the road is a different color. Alright, I hope this sunlight doesn't whack you. Let's see if I can do one of these. But anyway, you can see the difference in the a red road and a gravel colored road. So I got the one tractor up front now that has the landscape rake on it, which is for heavier duty stuff. And I have the other tractor back here that has the pine needle rake. So these are the stacks of pine needles that I'll eventually come back and pick up. Now see how this road, I don't know if you can notice it, big rock, walking backwards here. If I had used the landscape rake on this whole thing, the entire road would look like this. This was an area that was pretty much beaten up. The ATV, it would, when you run fast on a graveled road, that's another thing that would tear up your road. Running fast on a graveled road pulls out the bottom settlement. That's the larger rocks. And of course the little rocks, the little rocks that you want on top, gives you a smooth ride. With all of these bigger rocks down on the ground, you get a bumpy ride. And eventually I got to put another layer of rock down anyway to clear it up, but no time soon. That takes a few dollars to do that. So anyway, as you can see, that's what we had done so far yesterday. All right, we'll see you when we get back up front. Okay, we'll show a little demonstration again. I know I have another video already using the pine needle rake, but just to kind of show you how it does. Let me go. See how nice and easy that takes it up and doesn't tear down into the rock. Okay, hope I'm not hurting your eyes. Okay, but it doesn't do much damage. So let's try the other side and clear this center. So as you can see, it pretty much picks everything up and does not dig down into anything beyond the actual rock itself. Just where it's dark is where the pine needles had started to rot, but they're cleared up, and it does a fine job. Doesn't rip up anything. Now anything that was already loose, any of the big rocks, it will pull them up again, but does a fine job. As you can see, it just leaves a little trail like little fingernails and nothing severe. So those of you that were concerned about, hey, it would tear up my grass when I'm getting leaves or something like that, nope, this thing surprisingly enough is pretty gentle on your grass and everything like that. So let's do one more sweep here. Okay, you can see it gathers pine needles, and it'll get twigs and anything else. And of course I just start dumping them into piles. But it doesn't tear up the soil badly. Some areas where it's real soft because it's wet, it'll tear into it a little, but nothing compared to if I had used the landscape rake. Now right along the edge where it meets the woods, it's hard to get that with this pine needle rake. Now as you can see here, I have water down in the side in the trenches, and they get clogged up fast with branches, pine needles, anything else that can float and then sink. And over on this side, you notice that there is little to no water because it can't pass through. And so there's spots, so that's where I'm going to try this landscape rake and see if I can open it up. I used it some here experimenting to figure out what angle I've got to put that blade or that rake to be able to dig it out. So I used it straight or flat, and it cleared out this area, but it also, because I didn't keep it at an angle, it dug down into the ground out here, which I really didn't want it to do. But as you can see, it cleared out that ditch, and now you can see water starting to flow and so forth where it's dark. So there's more to be done. I'm still fooling around with it. And it gets big clumps of that stuff. I didn't realize how much was there. So up here, we'll let you see. I changed the angle of it so that the rake is now at an angle that it could, when lowered, get down in that ditch. So I'm going to try to connect the area where there's water, and let's see how it does. Okay, that opened up a lot of it right there. So as you can see, it does a pretty good job. Now if I had this on the other tractor, it would be a lot smoother, because this little tractor, the 3-point hitch lever, it's not notched, has no indents, so you're constantly having to raise it, lower it, raise it, lower it. While on the other tractor that has the pine needle rake on there, I could set it and pretty much not be concerned as much. Now I'm sure if I had gotten a hydraulic 3-point hitch, that would probably make things a lot easier, or even a tilting one that tilts, the hydraulic tilting way, could tilt it to an angle. But we're using what we have, and no super mega bucks. But it's opening it up. Okay, so that was the goal, to do that. Just thought I'd show you some of it. We have a couple guest appearance here. Yeah, they're still running free, and they talk too. Can you talk? Can you? Look at you. Look at you. Look how big you got. You see how big you got? Like a little bear. Yes. All right, watch yourself. Get. Okay. That ends work with these guys, because they intend to get their normal snack and meal when they stop by. They'll be here for a couple of days, and then they'll be gone again. So at least I know they're healthy and they're doing okay. All right, folks, I guess that is a wrap. Bye now.